Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning. That is your channel for all things magic. Today, our Momir Vig series continues as we add the next 20 creature cards with mana values of 2 to our Momir Vig Cube. What's up, MTGBC? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment of our ongoing Momir Vig Cube series. If, for some reason, you are unaware or just need a refresher or don't understand the goals and purposes of the Momir Vig Cube series, I urge you to search in the description below for the link to MTG Burgeoning's Introduction to the Momir Vig Cube. And while you're down there fishing for that link, you can also click the link to Cube Cobra. There you can see the entire cube as it stands right now. So today we got 20 with mana values of 2 going in, and the first one we're going to talk about is the Kazandu Tuskcaller. It's going to start off as a 1/1 human shaman, of course, and it has the level up mechanics. So MTGBC, make sure your basic land library has those forests in it. And if we pay 1 and a green enough times to get between 2 and 5 level up counters on Kazandu Tuskcaller, then we can turn it sideways to create a 3/3 green elephant creature token. In a format like Momir Vig that is driven by creatures, any creatures that can create creatures are highly coveted. And if by any chance you can get to at least 6 level up counters on Kazandu Tuskcaller, you can turn her sideways to create 2 of those 3/3 green elephant creature tokens instead of 1. She may be one of the most valuable 2-drops to date. Next up, we have Kiku, Knight's Flower. It is a 1/3 human assassin. We can pay 2 and 2 black mana and tap Kiku, Knight's Flower, and have target creature deal damage to itself equal to its power. That will destroy an awful lot of creatures that are out there on the battlefield. Again, this is a format driven by creatures. There are no instants or sorcery spells, so any creatures that may have effects that could act as removal are highly advantageous for the summoner. Just make sure you're playing with those basic swamps in your library, because you're going to need 2 black sources of mana in order to activate Kiku's ability. Our first multicolored creature of today, we have Kiora's Follower. We got a SIMIC creature here, but of course the SIMIC doesn't matter because any mana generated through our Momir Vig Visionary Avatar is going to just randomly summon any of the creatures from the Momir Vig Cube. This is a 2/2 merfolk that we can tap to untap another target permanent. This could really lend some combat shenanigans. Jeez, I completely blanked right there. This could really cause some headaches for our opponents during combat, and this can also help to ramp us as well, because we can untap one of our lands as a way in which to generate additional mana so that we can summon creature cards, so we can summon copies of creatures from the Momir Vig Cube ahead of curve. Creature number 4, we have Knight of Grace. It's a 2/2 first strike with protection from black, and Knight of Grace will get +1/+0 as long as any player controls a black permanent. As all creatures summoned from the cube are done so randomly, it's not a guarantee that one of our opponents will have a black permanent. However, if they do, then we're summoning a 3/2 first striker for just the investment of 2 mana. Additionally, that hexproof from black could prove to be very favorable because, for example, Kiku would not be able to target Knight of Grace. Creature number 5 and another monocolor edition. What is going on here today? We have Knight of Infamy. It's a 2/1 with protection from white. And this has the Exalted mechanic. So whenever a creature attacks by itself, it's going to get +1/+1. Creature number 6, staying with mono black, we have another knight. This is Knight of Malice. This is a 2/2 with first strike that has hexproof from white and gets +1/+0 as long as any player controls a white permanent. So everything we said about Knight of Grace except for the Kiku targeting, of course, can apply to Knight of Malice. Next up, another mono white edition, we have Core Firewalker, 2/2 with protection from red. Whenever a player casts a red spell, we will gain 1 life. Don't let these protection cards go unnoticed. In a format like Momir Vig, where everything is driven by combat, any form of evasion, which protection is, should be highly coveted. Alright, creature number 8, we have Leaden Mirror. It's a 1/1 mirror that we can turn sideways for a black mana. So this can help us to activate abilities of our creatures that require black mana, or this can help us to summon creatures from the Momir Vig Cube ahead of curve. Our first mono red edition of this video, it is Lightning Mauler. It's a 2/1 with Soul Bond, which means when this creature or another creature enters the battlefield, if they are unpaired, we may pair them and they remain paired for as long as we control both of them. And as long as Lightning Mauler is paired with another creature, both creatures will have haste. Alright, haste is another one of those mechanics that should not be overlooked in this format. And reaching the halfway point of the creatures for this video, we have Longbow Archer. It is a 2/2 archer with first strike, and it may block creatures with flying. So it has reach for a card that was created before the keyword reach was. Alright, next we have Lotus Cobra, another mono green edition. It's a 2/1 snake with the landfall mechanic. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we'll add 1 mana of any color. This will help us to ramp out ahead of our opponents with regards to summoning creatures from the cube ahead of curve. Plus, it could also help with the activated abilities of our creatures if for some reason we're not getting the colors that we need. Another mono white edition, we have Luminarch Aspirant. It's a 1/1 human cleric. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature we control. This is one of those creatures that I would think we would just kind of hold back from combat and let its activated ability continue to trigger, making one or many of our creatures bigger and bigger with each passing combat during our turn. Next, we have another mono black edition. This one is the Malakir Cullblade. It's a 1/1 vampire warrior. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, we put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Now, in a format that is Momir Vig, that's all about combat, you better believe there's going to be chump blocking galore. That means that Malakir Cullblade, as unassuming as it is for a 1/1, it could get bigger and bigger because it's whenever a creature dies. It doesn't necessarily have to be one of ours. I'm sorry, it's whenever an opponent's creature dies, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So it's not one of those things that's during a turn, it gets 1 +1/+1 counter. If one or more creatures dies, whenever a creature of our opponent hits the graveyard, this is going to get a +1/+1 counter, and that could get out of control very quickly. Next up, in another colorless edition, we have Mannequin, a 1/1 construct that we can tap for a colorless mana, and this is going to help us ramp out ahead of our opponents and summon those creatures from the Momir Vig Cube ahead of curve. Alright, our next edition, number 15 of this video, is our first mono blue creature. It is the Merfolk Trickster. It is a 2/2. It has flash, but that's meaningless in the Momir Vig format because any creature summoned is summoned randomly and at sorcery speed. However, when Merfolk Trickster ETBs, we do get to tap target creature an opponent controls, and that creature will lose all of their abilities until end of turn. So even though we lose the flash on Merfolk Trickster, we definitely can take advantage of its tap down and, ability nerfing for one of our opponent's creatures. Alright, another mono blue edition, we have Metropolis Sprite, a 1/2 fairy rogue with flying. We can pay a blue mana to give it +1/-1 until end of turn. Make sure you do that just once, because if you do it twice, Metropolis Sprite will hit the yard faster than you could blink. Also, make sure you have those island sources in your basic land library. Another colorless creature is up. This time it is Millikin, a 0/1. We can tap him to put the top card of our library into our graveyard, and we add 1 colorless mana to our mana pool. A lot of hoops to jump through and resource thinning in order to generate an additional mana. However, Millikin will help us to ramp out those creatures ahead of curve if we get it onto the battlefield and under our control. All right, next up, creature number 18 and another mono red edition. We have Minotaur Explorer. It's a 3/3, and whenever it enters the battlefield, we have to sacrifice it unless we discard a card at random from our hand. So you have to really gauge the value here and look at what's going on the board. Is a 3/3 that you've invested only 2 mana in worth discarding one of the lands from your hand, keeping in mind that those are the lands we must play in order to summon the creatures from the Momir Vig Cube. Additionally, each creature that we summon from the cube, we must discard a card. So Minotaur Explorer leaves its summoners with a lot of potential questions. More so than anything, this helps to highlight one of the themes woven into the Momir Vig Cube, and that is not every creature is going to be uber powerful or uber helpful. Number 19, another mono blue edition. This time it is Mistform Stalker. It's a 1/1 illusion that we can pay 1 mana into, and it becomes the creature type of our choice until end of turn. So if we have a tribe-specific lord or some other specific creature that's in play that gives a specific creature type any kind of abilities, we can turn Mistform Stalker into one of those creatures and reap those benefits. Additionally, and a little more powerful, I believe, we can pay 2 and 2 blue mana to give it +2/+2 and flying until end of turn. That double blue mana could be a little troublesome. Make sure you have those blue mana sources in your basic land library. And lastly, creature number 20 is another mono white edition, and it is going to be the Mist Meadow Skulk. It's a 1/1 Kithkin Rogue. It has lifelink, and it has protection from converted mana cost of 3 or greater. So if you can get this bad boy onto the battlefield with your turn 2 summoning, you should be able to swing in a couple of times without having to worry about Mist Meadow Skulk dying. In addition, you get to gain some of that life. It's a nice little life drain ability for the first couple turns if you're fortunate enough to summon a copy of it on your side of the battlefield. All right, MTG that's another 20 creatures for the Momir Vig Cube. This group had mana values of 2. Let me know in the comment section below which were your favorites. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.